of your favorite South Florida sports teams. From the Miami Dolphins, Hurricanes, Heat, Marlins, Florida Panthers, and Inter Miami, they've got it all. Celebrate your favorite team and show off your fandom with their beautiful team starter jackets, killer-looking helmets, team jerseys, cool shirts, and more. And if you're out of town or out of state, no worries. Go to caneswear.com and find everything they have on their site. Select what you want, and they will ship your gear to you. Anything over $99 is shipped for free. Don't wait. Stop at Caneswear today.
Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And
all right, as
Miami,
always, Dolphins number one, baby!
So fins up to all you guys. Thank you for doing
I just want everybody to remember, we may not always agree on everything Miami Dolphins, but there's one thing we do agree on. We are all Dolphin fans. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Talk Fins Talk. I'm your host, Steve Malloy, and as always, my co-host, my friend, Rob Mosley, a.k.a. Been Thirsty, and we have a special treat tonight, special guest, Curtis from Ace Per Head. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing great.
You can go ahead, Curtis. That's all. I just can't complain. That's about it.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
Hey, Curtis, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. And you know what? Honestly, like I was just talking. Rob was talking about how he's overcome a lot of stuff and like his health. Man, I was putting out my story. I'm like, I felt like, I got a lot to overcome. You, man, you boosted me, man. I think I'm going to be very pumped up for the show tonight, bro. I'm grateful to be on. Really, I've never been invited to a Fins podcast before. I'm kind of like, I guess, the Grinch on the hinterland of the Dolphins community. So I appreciate getting invited on.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's our pleasure. It's our pleasure, man. I'm honored to have you on, man. I don't know how I found you, but I happened to stumble across your show maybe 4 or 5 months ago. And man, I really enjoyed it. You're realistic in your honest takes. And I just appreciate it. You're genuine and I just kind of appreciate a show like that. But before we get started, I want to thank everybody that's joined us tonight in the chat. We got Cap for Life. We got Adams in there. Scotty's in there. Aladino's in there. So appreciate all of you joining us tonight. Make sure you hit that like button before you come up here tonight. And if you're new to the channel, of course, we want you to subscribe and share with your friends, your families, and your neighbors. So before we get rolling here tonight, first thing I do want to say is, look, we're all Dolphins. We may not agree on everything Dolphins. One thing we can agree on, like I said, we are all Dolphins.
That's
so. Yes, sir. So, Rob, what do you got going on at Dolphin Thirsty this week? Or up and coming in the future here?
Big E last night, so it was a really popular show. We got a good turnout. So she kicked butt. That's Courtney, aka Daw. I just produced behind the scenes, but always nice to talk to Ian behind the scenes. I did, and of course Courtney behind the scenes. So it was cool. And then on my own channel, I've been taking a little bit of a break. I will eventually start again as just doing it myself. I've been trying to get in shape. Trying to do a lot more, and social media can become so addicting. Not that I don't love communicating with you guys. You're all great. Many of my regulars are in this room right now. You guys rock. But sometimes you just need a step away from social media, take a breath, and get back in shape. And that's what I've been doing. But I'll be back. By the time football season's around, you're going to get too much of me. You're going to want to get me off again. Tell go take a break, Rob. So, so it's going to be good.
Good stuff. Good stuff, Rob. Thank you. All right, so Mr. Curtis from
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Tell us what you got going on in your channel, how you got started, and how long you've been doing this, and how long you've been a Dolphin fan. I know that's more than one question, but
yeah. Well, I'll give you the tour. It's all been pretty wild. I'm from New York. You probably can't. We said it before. You probably can't tell I'm from New York. So what the heck am I doing being a Dolphins fan? But in the '70s, Miami was hot to trot. My family, half my family's from Tampa. The other was from the boroughs in New York. And so I guess when Miami's winning, we could jump on the bandwagon. Some of this Florida stuff flowed up. And I had two cousins. One, he had red hair. He was a jerk. He'd spit in my face and really torture me. And then the other one was like the cool guy and everyone in the neighborhood loved. And the jerk was the Dallas fan. And the guy I loved was a Miami fan. And it was 1978. And they were playing against each other. I went downstairs. And the jerk said, who is you a fan of? And I'm like, I don't know. Who are these guys? It was like Dallas and Dolphins. Some other cool guy, what team do you want? He's like, Dolphins. I'm like, I'm a Dolphin fan. I got in the Bob Greasy fan club. I got the black and white photo with the glasses. Thought it was cool back in the day.
Nice.
Used to follow the clippings. All my family played football. And, I got into like playing football before I actually knew about the Dolphins. So since then, it's been a tragic love affair with the Dolphins. I missed on the epic era. And then I got the, a damn near era now I've been chasing. And then, a couple of years ago, I was working a job doing like 80 hours a week. And I said,
oh, wow,
I'm getting really sick. Cause I'm a workaholic, I got tunnel vision. I went to military school as a kid. I played football, martial arts, German family with Japanese influence. So everything is just like this, And I was like getting real sick. And I told my wife, I said, honey, I'm walking, I'm quitting tonight. She's like, okay. It's like, what? I went outside. I looked up the sky. I said, God, I'm going to quit this job. And I don't know what I'm going to do. Next day, a company, my friend who knew a company said, you want to write about the Miami Dolphins? Little job. So I said, all right, I'll pick it up while I find something on the side. So I started writing for Finn's News. And I started doing the articles. I'm like, these things need videos. So I put in some little clips about 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And then the company contacted me a couple of years ago and said, hey, would you want to do YouTube? I said, no. And I said, no, thank you. People had asked me kind of like my friends, why don't you try this? I said, no, I hate the camera. I hate the whole thing. And I told my wife and she said, oh, you're going to do it. I said, I'm going to do it. And so I've been doing it for 3 years. And I like it. I don't like the being here. I want to, I like behind the scenes and stuff. But,
right.
But so I've been doing this for 3.5 years and it seems to be going okay. My wife keeps telling me to do it, so I keep doing it. I love to do it, but it's kind of like a love-hate relationship, sort of. So that's the whole journey, man, to be here. Crazy gig. Great. It's a crazy gig, It's
that's interesting. Gig. That's interesting. So ace per head. Can you kind of explain, briefly what that is, and you still work for them, correct?
Yeah, it's a software company. It's a software company. It's like the third or fourth biggest software company in the world, and they provide like a software program for people who want to be like bookies or something like that. Okay. And so basically, if you're a bookie, you can use them and you manage your team and all that stuff. I'm too cheap. I'm German, so I'm too cheap to gamble. But they're doing really good, and like they make me do some commercials, which is more.
I saw that. I saw one of your commercials.
I hate it.
I saw one. It was good, man. You do a great job, though.
I got like maybe 10 pictures over the last 20 years. I don't even like them, but it's so funny. The thing you don't like, you get forced to do. But I can't complain. I really can't. And so it's been really good to me, So I can't complain. I love covering football. I wish I was a writer and you didn't have to see my face, just a little picture in an article or something, But
right.
And age, that stuff's dead, So if you want to cover football, you got to do this. I love the game of football so much. I went to military school, and some older boys asked me to play football, and I've been captivated with the game ever since. I played up until like junior college. Played after all those, contact leagues, non-contact leagues, and I just love the game. I can't get out of my system, so I'm really grateful to do it, guys. But I hate the. You keep seeing. I had more hair.
Hey, I'm with you, man. I'm with you,
dude.
We're all with you. All three of us are with you.
Yeah, we're all together too. So.
I'm like, who is that melon head? Wait, that's me.
Hey, well, Rob Mosley actually does have a website where he does write pieces about the Miami Dolphins. So maybe you two ought to collaborate and
oh yeah.
On that.
Well, I just do it for fun, though. That's it. And I haven't updated it for way too long. But yeah, I would, it's dolphinthirsty.com, but I haven't updated it for a long time.
I still write for Finn's News. I need
to
You got to stick with it. It's important. I think, you know, it's so sad. We're old dudes, you know. I think we're all around the same age, sort of. Newspapers going to be gone soon. Written hand stuff is going to be gone soon.
For sure.
And at least the word, you know, like I went to school for writing. I always wanted to be a writer. That was my dream, you know. And I just think that journalists need a place. And so anything that you can do to put print out there, I think it's critical, you know, because even when you want to study the game, you cannot study the game unless you're really either, you know, listening to a coach, you know, one-on-one, or you're reading, because you listen to me talk and it's very difficult to grab that information when you really get the deep parts of the game. So to me, the written word is very critical. So yeah. So guys, like you see, you're German, but you sound Italian. Yeah. My family's from the boroughs. So it's just like all mishmashes, you know, but anyway, yeah, keep it up, Darcy, please. We need the written word.
Absolutely. I try to encourage him.
Yeah. It's not easy though.
Well, I'm not a writer. I mean, I'm not a writer at all. So I'd stay away from that. That's not my forte. But anyway, I wanted to get to the nitty gritty, Curtis, because like I said, I've watched your show. I've heard some of your takes. You're genuine. You're honest. You're fair. Yet you're realistic. You give both sides. You give the negative side and the positive side. So you're somewhere in between there, you know, leaning either left or to the right as far as your show goes. So you can go either way. But what I wanted to get to tonight was our actually, it was the title to our show was Good News. Curtis brings good news about the Miami Dolphins, and specifically, I wanted to talk about the defense. There was you had the show where you were talking about Mike Macdonald, who is the head coach now for the Seattle Seahawks, and he was previously the defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, where our coach Anthony Weaver coached. He was assistant there, and he also was, if I remember correctly, I have it here.
He was a DC for Texans too.
Yes, and he was a DC for Texans. In fact, let me go over the history real quick before we get to talking about the correlation between the Mike Macdonald defense that will probably be up in Seattle and the Miami Dolphins with Anthony Weaver. So he started off as assistant defensive line coach in 2012 with the New York Jets, your neck of the woods. Then in 2013, he was a defensive line coach for the Buffalo Bills. He was with the Browns from 2014 to 2015. He was a defensive line coach there. Then he went to the Houston Texans in 2016 through 2019, although he didn't become the defensive coordinator
2020.
Yes, 2020. And before that, he was the defensive line coach with Houston before he was promoted. Then he went to the Baltimore Ravens in 2021. Of course, we know he was, as you mentioned, a defensive line coach. And here's a little tidbit. He was also the run coordinator there. How that fits in, I don't know.
Right? Yeah,
it's very interesting. So I don't know. And then, of course, he was there for the year, assistant coach as well. And then he came to Miami, and now he's our defensive coordinator. So what is your thoughts on Anthony Weaver, and how do you see this defense going? And give us the analogy with the not Mike McDaniel.
I did the same thing in the podcast.
The McDonald's defense from Seattle, and how that correlates with Miami's defense and Anthony Weaver, as you might have foresee it. How do you foresee that?
Well, Dolphins have been really lucky in a way, because Flores came to Miami and he brought the hot defense. He brought something different, and he's really one of the only guys who could do it. But it was a unique defense that affected the NFL. And then we got Fangio, and Fangio's defense, his concepts moved off the cover 3, was after the cover 3 with Carroll, and was the major concept to really mitigate the pass game for many years. So it was another brilliant system. Some people don't like it, but I get into all that, and a brilliant quarter. And now we've got McDonald's scheme. I don't know how good Weaver is going to be, but the scheme I think is really, really good for us for multiple reasons. Now, you go back to Flora. You see, the problem is when you keep changing coordinators, you keep changing schemes, there's a lot of flux. And the biggest problem I thought with Fangio is that you had talent designed for a Flores-style defense, which was man, which was attack and blitz. And then you go into a passive zone cover, cerebrally driven defense, and it didn't jive. But now you're bringing Weaver in, and a lot of the concepts of what he wants to do, which is creating, it's complex because you get to the line of scrimmage, you got all these bodies, and the quarterback got to decipher who's doing what. We all remember that's what Flores would do. It's not the same, but similar.
Zero blitz.
Yeah. And you got guys that you know that you want to play man, that have played man. You got guys that you know how to blitz, that like to blitz. And you got a simple system, a simpler, like Tampa cover 2 is what I did. I talked about in my podcast. Tampa cover 2 defense was just cover 2 with deep linebackers. It's as simple as it gets, Dungy's system was just really talent reliant. But then you got like the Fangio system, which is you go to the quarters that he does, it's crazy. You really got to be like on your game in that secondary. Not so much in the front and the secondary, but then you got the stuff in the middle, and that's what Weaver's doing, and we need it. We got to make 24 and 25, because if not, you're entering Marvin Lewis territory as far as Chris Greer being here this long. So we've got to have success. And by bringing the McDonald's scheme in, there's ties to what Flores likes to do as far as talent and concepts. And then there is the ease with which you could bring it in, because you're given a basket of information of what the responsibilities are. And you can bring different packages in, and everybody understands it's the same thing over and over again. It's just different packages. But when they get to the line of scrimmage, the quarterback doesn't know that. And so he's got to do all this reading. And so it's simple and complex. And so I like the ties to Flores. I like the fact that we're being aggressive. You got Fuller and you got Ramsey who like to play man. Holland doesn't really like to tackle. He likes to do what he's going to do is play deep and play that, single high. You got a bunch of corners, and you brought some good linebackers that like to blitz in. And this is going to give us an opportunity to hit the ground running. Now, there's a downside to it, and that's Chubb and Phillips are not looking as healthy as we want, and it's going to take a while for them to get in. But this is why I'm saying 25. I'm not really a big fan of Greer. There's a lot of things I don't like about him. There's a lot of things I do like about him. And a lot of people are saying 24 has got to be the year. Even Mostert said we got to do something this year.
Yeah, I saw that article.
It's going to be a little hard, but I see some ways for us to do it. But really, everything is kind of positioning for that 25 season. And a guy like Weaver, a system that he's bringing, McDonald's system, with the talent and what we got, I think it's going to work really well. So there's a downside too, is that I think we could fill some of the holes next year, but the DI position, the ability to stop the run, is critical. If you look at the Ravens last year, they come out in ultra light boxes on first down. And if they were successful in stopping the run on first down in their ultra light box, they were best in the league in keeping the lowest quarterback rating. But once a team got a few successful early runs, they became bottom 3. And so it's going to be critical for us to stop the run.
Right.
Now we got to see how Peely plays out. We got to see, a couple of these other guys we got in the background. I'm not a big fan of Benito Jones, so we got to see how the run stop goes. But if the run stop goes well, I like what we're doing on D, and I like the direction we're heading.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That was my concern is the run. The run. We're going to miss Christian Wilkins.
Oh yeah.
And I really believe we're going to miss AVG as well. Adam Van Ginkel. I really think we're going to miss him. I liked him a lot.
Yep.
Maybe not Jordan Brooks. Yeah, maybe Jordan Brooks can fill his shoes. I don't know. I know he's had some success in the past. He's an older guy now. He's not the same Jordan Brooks that he was 3-4 years ago. But yeah, to be quite frank, I don't know how you feel, Rob, but I'll tell you how I feel. I feel more positive, Curtis, about this defense than I do about the offense, and we'll get to that too. Rob, how are you feeling about the defense and what basically what Curtis was talking about?
He's pretty much point on. There's going to a lot of wait and see, as we were talking about behind the. We still don't know. Are they going to pick it up right away? Because remember, when Fangio came in last year, the defense didn't start that great. It took a while to get everything going. Yes, when Ramsey came back, that helps a lot. But it took a while to get going. So my main question is just a question for Curtis. Is basically you said 2024 is more of a setup year than 2025 is the year. What makes you think, is that the overall team or the defense specifically you were talking about for 2025 being better?
Well, I mean, come on, look at AVG, look at Phillips.
Right.
Phillips, I think, was a higher prospect than Chop. AVG is about the same as Kamara. Both of them took a year and a half to get going. And they're going to be fine in the pass rush. But people, I remember I had big debate with people. I said AVG had a better season than Phillips in Phillips' rookie year. And they're like, well, yeah, 8.5 or whatever he was sacks. I said, yeah, but he was getting pulled out on rundowns and he was hurting us in the run game. Yeah. And we're in a mindset where touchdowns and passing yards, it's a huge aspect of the game, but you've got to stop the run. Because if the defense can keep the offense off schedule, the job gets a lot easier. But if you give up a 6-yard run or a 5-yard run on first down, then it makes a problem. And then if you're like with Phillips in year one, he was a good pass rusher, but they had to pull him out on a lot of downs, especially in red zone. And then so now who you're filling in? Shaq Barrett's pretty good. He's older, but he can't take too many beatings.
And so Chop,
I think Chop's really going to be but he struggled against the run. And, guys like that, I think he'll be fine in time. What time will that be? I don't know. Kamara, same thing. I mean, these are guys, the game is so difficult. It's such a hard thing. There's very, very few guys that come out and they just come out like gangbusters. And so that's why I'm saying this defense, I mean, if the Jets are healthy, they're going to be tough. The Bills are going to be tough. There's a tough schedule. There's this, I think 3 of the last 4 or 5 teams are playing. They're going to have extra days to prep for us. And so like half them are on the road. And so, I think we should have won already. I thought 23 was a year we should have had more success. I gave it a little bit of mitigating factors because of the injuries. But I think that if we can get just one playoff win, I think that sets up a positive vibe for next year. And next year is really, if nothing happens next year, then it's going to be an issue. But if you think about it, you'll have the marination of the system. Chubb and Phillips should be 100%. Hopefully you don't get any major injuries. And then you got all these draft picks. So I think more than likely 25 would be a better opportunity. But I do see ways. I mean, Rodgers could go down week 1 and 4 plays. And all of a sudden the pendulum swings. I'm not saying it's not. But when you got a schedule that saying, hey, it's going to be tough in the cold. It's going to be a physical schedule. There's a lot of run teams. I think it was like 12 run teams. Then, it makes it a little bit harder. Let's see if this offense is cranking and we could buy us some time until Chubb and Phillips comes back. Anything's possible. So I just think that the physicality aspect is wanting. Hunt is gone. That's a big piece. Connor's gone. That's a big piece. Wilkins is gone. That's a big piece. VG is gone. And I think Chop and Kamal will eventually develop into that, but at what time frame, And so I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. We're very finesse, which is not a bad thing. We're super fast. We're super quick strike, but you need physicality. It's hard for people to understand. I played on, junior college or whatever, but there's the violence, you're going out and the reports of the guy's injuries, it's not only for gambling, it's so the coaches don't have time to play. If they know the left tackle's got a bad left leg, they're coming in low early on a couple times to test that knee, to wear that thing out. they're running at the guy with the bad shoulder, at his shoulder. You know what I'm saying? It's a physical game. And we collapse every year, some because of injuries, some because we can't run inside, and some, just because we're not good in the cold. And now you might add in, without Wilkins, maybe a little softness inside. So I don't know. I'm very interested to see. If we do it this year, we're going to be unbelievable next year. And if we win 1 or 2 games, postseason games, we'll be unbelievable next year. But I got to see how it plays out. So,
yeah, absolutely. I agree. Winning a playoff game will go a long way, not just for this year, but as you said, for 2025 as well. That's where I stand on that as well. Let's talk a little bit about the offense. And I also want to get your take on McDaniel. I like to know how you feel about him. How do you see him? And then the offense as well. And I know you had a take on the offense. What the offense you feel is going to have to do in order to compensate for maybe the defense starting to gel, maybe the third, maybe the fourth, game. We don't know. Hopefully sooner, but usually it took Fangio at least 3-4 games for the defense to start really coming together and gelling.
Well, listen, can you imagine you're sitting in a booth and you're a run game coordinator? You get hired to be a head coach. You're the OC, HC, and then you're told, we got to win now. You know what a difficult road is? And then, again, I try to get people to understand offensive line sets the table for the whole team. And the difficulty level of the skills of the callers of the whole team is raised or lowered based on the talent and production of the offensive line. Anybody who's ever run behind a bad offensive line or had to throw a football with a bad offensive line understands. So McDaniel's a run game coordinator who had to come in, have a very finesse style offense, had to throw the football very fast because protection has been an issue. I think he's done well. I think he made a lot of big jumps in getting the team more disciplined, getting the plays in from year 1 to year 2. Still wasn't perfect year 2. Year 3 is the year I'm going to judge him harshly. I gave him a full mulligan year 1 and a decent mulligan year 2. I think the guy's done a really good job. I think he's a little pigeonholed. Not so much this year, because to me, people talk about OBJ. I think Jonnu Smith is the biggest piece addition.
Interesting, yeah.
I had called it, I think it was before the Titans game. I was watching safeties, and they understood we really had a limited menu. We ran the pocket post, we ran the fly, we ran outside, and we ran screens. And the safeties were like, well, you know what? We can't really stop it that much, so I'm just going to wait, let them catch the ball. These are small receivers, and let's jack them up. And it started to happen with a greater hit rate. And so they were really lining these guys up to blast them. But now with Jonnu, you're not doing that with the 250-pound dude. And that physicality.
And he's fast. And he's fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so I think that McDaniel does have a better – people were complaining that, like, why don't you run in the red zone? And then, like, the next week he tried to, and it was clogged. And it was only because Mostert bounced outside when it was totally clogged inside. Had a brilliant run that we got a touchdown. But it was clogged. It's always clogged. We don't have those interior run lanes. So the offense, I mean, Achane is blistering fast. We want to hope he stays healthy. Mostert is a freak. I mean, I have not had this much respect for a Dolphins running back since Ricky. This guy runs so hard and so fast. But the blocking lanes really weren't there. I mean, Hill and Waddle. Now you add OBJ and you add in that kid. What's his name? We picked up in the 5th round. I like that kid, the receiver.
Malik Washington.
Yeah, I like what I'm seeing from him. Like from his stats and what he's done in college. We got to see. It takes a while for these guys. But then you had Jonnu Smith, and so I like even Jalen Wright that we picked up, the running back. He's that inside guy.
So June 1st, do you think the Dolphins try to add to the offensive line or anything like that?
But not big. I think they need to move some money into next year.
Yeah, I know they do need some money to carry, especially if they want to
minus
extend some of these people.
You were minus 11.3 million, and
I
it's
know.
not a lot of wiggle room. So I think
Because both not this season, but the next season, they both Waddle and Phillips would be playing on, the team thing, the tag or whatever, fifth year option.
I wouldn't be too sure Waddle's going to be with us next year. They didn't draft Taj Washington and Malik Washington for nothing.
That's a good point. I never thought about it. I mean, that's a lot of capital to get back. I mean, I think there's a possibility. I mean, Greer laughed at the concept of him not being here. But then, what are you going to pay him? 27, 28 million?
Did you see they just signed Collins with Houston? $75 million contract, $25 million a year. Well, he got 52 million guaranteed. So those are not.
It's going to be hard. Collins a free agent next year after the season too.
Yeah,
and you got to add Tua. It's going to be hard to keep these guys. So for me, I think get yourself we need a veteran center. Brew was nicked up in OTAs, and they try to bring in Driscoll, and it didn't look good.
There we go.
I'm sorry to forget about the I'm sorry Eichenberg stuff. People are crazy. He performed terribly. You don't want him there. So you got to get yourself. I would say get yourself a veteran center.
Yeah.
Try to find a 2 million range. Find yourself maybe another DI, and then just roll that money to next year because you got to tack a lot of cash up. So.
Yeah. But I agree. I agree. I think a lot of that money's going to have to be moved to next year. And generally it is. Generally that's what they do, right? I mean, they move the money the next year.
They try. We don't do it too often.
They try. We don't do it too good. But here's the deal, and you brought that point up is we're not going to be able to buy all those flashy, toys anymore in the next 2 or 3 years. So Greer is going to have to be on his P's and Q's. He's going to have to draft really good the next 2 years for sure. No misses. He's going to have to draft, and to be quite frank with you, this year, I think he did okay with depth wise and development wise. But as far as an instant starter, I was very disappointed in Patrick Paul. I mean, he's from the Houston area. He went to high school right down the street from where I live. But I was very disappointed with his choosing of Patrick Paul.
I get your point, but I do think that was an eye, like Curtis was saying, they can free up money by moving on from Armstead, and hopefully Patrick Paul with a year of seasoning will be a little more ready. I can see the reasoning, but yes, but if the first 2 picks, me and you, all of our draft shows were saying they needed guys that came in and make an impact as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
Paul may get some playing time because you know how the Dolphins tend to go through offensive linemen pretty quick when people are getting picked up. I knock on wood. I hope that doesn't happen. But last year, outside of the Jets, the Dolphins played more offensive line fronts than any other team in football. So it's just, we will see. But, I think that's now whether Paul is good or not in the future, that's, to be debated and only time will tell. But I see the reasoning behind that. And I saw the reasoning behind Chop. So, I see the reasoning in the first 2.
Yeah. I do too. I see the reasoning behind Chop and Kamara. And of course, Patrick Paul. I definitely see the reasoning to this. But here's the thing, how many misses has Greer done in the last 3 or 4 years? And he's got to go out and get an Armstead, and then he's got to go out and get a Ramsey, and then he's got to go out and get whomever for his mistakes or his misses. That's
he's got a strong suit. I really think that Chop and Kamara, he's always been good at edges. Running backs. He's solid on the D line. He's terrible on the offensive line. And he finds some good skills. Scotty, it's minus 11. You're going to get 20 million more, maybe depending on how much the cap goes up. But then you got to figure you got to add in Tua's contract, Collins' contract. And if you actually over to cap.com, you'll see that if you get rid of Armstead pre-June and Chubb you can't. There's very little wiggle pre-June. So most of the money that you can free up, which is a substantial amount with some dead cap hit, it's post-June. So it's not really going to help you in that early phase of free agency or with signing your own free agents. So it is a little tight, and so you're paying 18 million, I think, in dead cap space for Howard next year. So if you could roll like 10 million of Howard's money into next year, I mean, I could pay for maybe half of Howard's contract. That might be able to pay for Tua's contract, and he just push forward the year after that. But it is a little tight. It is a little tight. And it was tight this year, too. People said it wasn't going to be tight. But you don't let Van Ginkel go. Maybe Van Ginkel. I don't, because Greer never really appreciated him. But Wilkins and Hunt, you don't let those guys go unless you can't afford them. I think he should have made the move in 22. But so there is cap ramifications. And we have maneuverability, but I think it's going to be. Yeah, but that's all post-June. You can't do it pre-June. If you just go to overthecap.com and check the pre-June numbers. I think Hill, if you got rid of Hill pre-June, it's 22 dead and 11 million saved. And Ramsey, it's like 25 dead and 2 saved. Now, it gets more balanced post-June, but you can't use that money pre-June. So that's why I'm saying we got into a little space. Like we have very little wiggle room pre-June. Post-June, we could do some stuff, but it's the pre-June thing that's the problem. Yeah, Over the Cap's really good. Check them out. I really like.
Yeah, no, they are. I go there when I'm riding a lot, and I always reference them, of course. But so that's good. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, people say, "Oh, if we just move on from these players," but sometimes if you move on from those players, how good is your team? So it's just like you don't factor that in. It's easy to move on from Ramsey and Hill, but then you take a step back, and are you going to find someone at a good price that can play up to their level? So that's why these teams have to factor in all of those equations. Are they worth the money? Is it going to be a huge drop off if this guy leaves and we pay?
And they're getting older too.
Yeah,
what's that?
They're getting older too.
Yeah, I know that's true too. So we'll see, man. I know Cal Krabs. He's really big on the cap. He's grinding the tape. I think it's his name on here, but his name's Cal Krabs. Right. And he's like a capologist, man. I could almost drift off because he's so into it. I'm like, oh my God, these numbers, I don't know, because I try to do while I'm doing my walks, I listen to his podcast in the morning. I'm like, oh my God, he's so serious. But he broke it down the other day, and he was saying, yeah, we could be in a mess, but there are ways out of it.
Yeah. Kicking the can down the road is one of them. He's very good at that.
Well, that's what we've been doing.
And that's what they're doing. That's what I'm saying. And but I think he's going to have to, in the next 2 to 3 years, or next 2 years at minimum, he's going to have to draft well. There's just no way around it. And he's going to have to bargain shop like we did this year. Because if you look at the contracts of most of these guys that we got, they're not big contracts. They're only 1-year deals, 2-year deals at the most. So that's what we're going to be looking at next year. And I'm telling you right now, this next year, Chubb may not even be with us. He may not be with us. Ramsey, maybe. He may not be with us. I know you're saying about the cap and all, but I just don't think. And
they can do a post-June. They can do a post-June.
Yeah.
So, like, say if Chop does really well and like Kamara does really well,
exactly.
Then you go post-June, but the numbers aren't so hot though. There's a lot of dead money being carried.
So,
you're getting, a little bit.
So what I'm saying is basically, Curtis and Rob, is these guys that we picked up this year, especially Chop and Camaro and these guys and the 2 Washingtons and maybe Patrick Paul and I know Jalen. I think Jalen Wright's going to be all right. Hopefully he gets enough. He gets enough. He has a high snap count. But what are you going to do? You got Achane, you got Mostert, and you got Jalen Wright, and you got Wilson, and you got Ahmed, right? And you got Chris Brooks. Not everybody's going to get the ball, man. That's what people don't think. Oh, we got Jalen Wright. Yeah, how many snaps is he going to get? How many snaps is Achane going to get? Mostert is on a limited snap count already. We know that because of his injury history. And we don't know about Achane either, right? Because he was injured last year for a couple games. And he's a small guy. I stood right next to him here in Houston when they're at the training camp, got a picture with him. He's my size. Well, a little bigger, but not much. And so, we got to watch, the injuries again next year with these guys. They're, I don't know, man. The offense, as I said, I don't have the confidence, and I don't know if my feelings on Tua, Curtis, and we'll get to his contract and all that. I'm not a big fan of Tua. I wanted him in the beginning as a rookie when we drafted him. I was pounding the table for him. And then after the first 2 or 3 years, I said, man, I've literally seen hundreds of quarterbacks in my 51 years of watching football or more. And he just doesn't have that moxie, man. He just doesn't have it. I don't care how many quarterback coaches he has. Will he improve at his technique? Yes. I saw him drop a dime today on Twitter. Very nice pass. And I saw his form. It's totally different.
Mm-hmm.
He's releasing the ball higher. He's got more velocity on the ball. Is that enough to get, to win us another game or two and in the playoffs? I don't know. I'm hoping it is. I mean, it can't hurt, with the coaching that he's getting from Beck and Mr. House and the other guy. He lost weight. That concerns me too. I don't know. And I know Mike McDaniel in his talk, he said, well, that wasn't the goal for him to gain weight last year. That wasn't the reason why he gained weight, wasn't for his injury history, or, that wasn't the reason why he gained weight or, gained some weight. Well, we'll see this year. It's only 1 year. He's had one full year, one solid full year. And now we're going to talk about contracts. I am not paying Tua an extension. I want him to play on his 5th-year option. I want him, and if he balls out next year, I don't care if you pay him $60 million and he balls out and wins a playoff game for us. Now we're going somewhere. Now and he stays healthy. Now we're going somewhere. Now we pay the man. Not now. I mean, that's just my take. And you got a chance to franchise him twice. If you're not happy with his play next year, but doesn't win a playoff game next year, but he plays solid, has a solid year, then go ahead and pay him anyway, and then, go ahead and franchise him, not pay him, but go ahead and franchise him in a year. You got 2 years you can franchise him. Everybody says, well, it's going to be a lot more money. Look, when you're paying a guy $50 million or $55 million, $5 more million is not going to matter.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? 5, even 10 million is not going to matter. But anyway, how do you feel about Tua, his play, his contract situation right now?
I was reading an article from Bucky Brooks and somebody else, and he talked about young quarterbacks, the 3 Ps: protection, playmakers, and play calling. I don't think I've seen as poor an offensive line for a top 5 quarterback since maybe Andrew Luck. When you go back, and we brought him in, I don't know who brought him in 2020, and there was a whole hidden thing about that because it certainly wasn't Flores, and Gailey wasn't even consulted on it. He didn't know the system, and he wasn't, because it's a hard, complicated system. He wasn't expected to. He was supposed to redshirt, and suddenly he wasn't redshirting. And he physically wasn't ready, and he said so in the postseason. You had a bunch of really shoddy journalists saying that Gailey was trying to sabotage him for Fitzpatrick. That's a whole nother shadow thing in the past with the Dolphins. So the kid's first season was trashed. And then you go into the 21 season, and you got Chris Greer sabotaging Flores because he traded off Van Noy to spite the coach, and then sent Flowers, who was your best offensive lineman, for a 7th-round pick. Let Karras walk, who had a top 5 season as a guard. And I coined it the 45th best offensive line in football. And you had Jackson at guard, Eichenberg at tackle with a 2nd and 3rd. That was an abomination. And there's no way you're telling me this kid, he had, I think, every single year up until that point, a different offensive scheme. He's in a second offensive scheme, and he's got the 3 OCs. They can't even get one guy to do it. You got the GM feuding with the head coach, shipping off talent. So 21 is a disaster. And
that was a bad idea, the 3 OCs. I thought
he had no choice, though, because Flores actually interviewed McDaniel, but he knew that he was going to get sabotaged. He knew that they were trying to, it was a civil war inside there between Ross, Greer, and Flores, and it was ugly. And so, I remember, even like last year, because it was 22 or whatever, when he got hurt, Flores had him getting thin, and then people were like, oh, I see Flores hates Tua, he's trying to get him hurt, and now he's getting thin again. They're like, this is a great idea. It's crazy. So then you go to 22, you get a whole new offense, and the offensive line, it's in flux. you're going in with Jackson and you're going in with Eichenberg, Wynn, who's not Wynn's not good.
I agree, 100%. Hey, let me hold you up real quick. Hold that thought, Curtis. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope you're enjoying the show. Please hit that like button as you're coming in. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And don't forget to share with your friends, your families, your neighbors, and even Jet fans and Buffalo fans. Okay, Curtis, I'm sorry. Go ahead, buddy.
Oh, no, sweat. So it's so hard because the offensive line has so few stats. Like I've actually created my own statistical analysis of the offensive line called blockers per pass. So it's a long thing, but the number of blockers you use to create protection has a multifaceted weight according to each play. So the more blockers you use, the less receivers en route. If they're bringing 6 guys to blitz you and you're bringing 7 guys or 8 guys to block, it's not a big deal. But when we consistently bring 6.8 blockers to block 4 guys, that alters the trajectory and the possibilities of passing a football when you're throwing, 2 guys in route that are receivers and a tight end that's not meant to be a receiver against 7 DBs. Mm-hmm. And so it was a very difficult setup for him. Last year was better, but we mitigated the poor offensive line and our need to bring extra offensive linemen by throwing the football fast. So now you throw the football ultra fast and you say the kid can't read. Well, there's a really clear stat that shows that that's not the case. You can go to any team in the league besides us, and the blitz time rate is always higher than the clean time rate. So clean time is you're not getting jammed by anybody, and what's the time to throw? Mm-hmm. Ours was 2.09. Our blitz time to throw was 2.08. Only team in the league. There were some terrible teams that was like, 0.05 more.
Right.
We could not hold our blocks. Chris Kaufman from 3 yards per carry did a brilliant summation. He checked the true pass set grades of every offensive line for the last 14 years. And what that means is it's just you. This particular lineman, you're blocking on your own. You're not getting help with play action. You're not getting help with chips. It's you, mano y mano. How do you do? What's your true pass set grade? And then you factor it all out, all the offensive line. We had the worst grade in 14 years by a country mile. If you look at that graph, so in my opinion, I got to coin it, is the offensive line makes the NFL world go round. Blocking the trenches, all plays start in the trenches, and the success is built out from there. So if you've got the worst offensive line in 14 years with the worst true pass set grade, and you got to throw the football that fast, and your blitz time is quicker than your clean time to throw, maybe this kid's not the right kid for you. Maybe he's not a guy who's got enough moxie to win a Super Bowl. But clearly, that's the smaller elephant in the room. The larger elephant is that there's never been a Super Bowl winner with a crappy offensive line. You've had crappy quarterbacks win Super Bowls. You've had crappy even run games maybe win Super Bowls, but you've never had crappy offensive lines. And so for me, that's a mitigating factor. For me, I would have built this kid with a good offensive line, a good run game, a quality tight end that he can use play action, because that release has been timed to be quicker than Dan Marino's. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's around the same.
No, I agree. Yeah, you're right. You're right on that point.
The thing he needs. He needs one good fast receiver, one tall receiver, a good tight end, play action. He's not carrying a whole weight, and a good defense, kind of like what he had in Alabama, although they had the 3 superstar receivers. Yeah. Chris Greer had an option. He could have built the 1970s Dolphins with all those picks, or he could have built the 80s Dolphins with all those picks. Dan Marino is a way better quarterback than Tua, and he couldn't win with the all-out pass game with a poor offensive line, except for pass blocking. But he lifted a lot of that up, and no run game. And we did it again.
He did it with his quick release. Yeah, right. You're right. Yeah,
with a lesser quarterback. Sense. So how do you expect? I know the rules have changed a little bit, and is that
sure?
I don't know. I would have built it differently. So I think the kid, he's got talent. The biggest question for me is his injury history. Can he stay healthy? And then he gets tight. He gets a little nervous. But if I had that offensive line, I had my owners and everybody else saying this, it's not, when you're a coach and you bring a rookie in, you're setting his talents and psyche, and you're trying to create a framework to get it to be at its peak. Everything we've done has been to lower that. And you could say we bring in the receivers, but then it pigeonholes them into these quick throws, and there's problems outside of that. So I don't know. I don't know if he's good enough to win a Super Bowl. I don't know if he can stay healthy. He's the best quarterback since Dan Marino, and he's been given the crappiest setup that I've seen as far as offensive line since Andrew Luck. And Andrew Luck's a way better quarterback. He got his ass beat and knocked out of the league.
So do you think that it's, so what you're saying is if Mike McDaniel had a better offensive line, do you think all the motions and all that kind of stuff would change and they'd play more pro style type football?
Well, I think that, okay. I saw somebody, Scotty, he said Armstead, Wynn, Connor, Hunt, and AJ, first 7 games were top O-lines in the league. It depends on what you're basing it on. Week 1, we couldn't run the football. And Staley had the dumbest freaking defense I've ever seen in my life. But we won. But look at the time to throw. Came back, played a couple crappy teams, blew them out to unbelievable. You can't knock that. But if you notice that those first 2 weeks, the edge players were playing inside for the crack. They were so stupid. And then towards the end of the league, they played outside and they played wide. They shot wide, and also on the outside run game kind of faltered. Then we played the Bills and got lit up like a Christmas tree. And then there were injuries. But if you look at Philly, you look at KC, you look at the Titans, you look at, we couldn't put points on. And why couldn't we break 20? You could say it's Tua. Okay, it's Tua. But you look. No,
I don't blame Tua. I see a lot of folks want to say, "Oh, it's all on Tua." No, it's not Tua's fault. Did he contribute towards it? Yes. That's my only issue with him. He has contributed. He didn't carry the team. He didn't lift the team.
He's not good enough to do that. He's not good enough,
in my opinion. But it's not Tua's fault. No.
Look. If you put Drew Brees with a bad offensive line, how do you look? Tua is a system quarterback with an elite trait and a highly the release is an elite trait. One of the all-time releases.
Fair enough. I agree.
And his ability to throw into space is very high. Mm-hmm. But I mean, look at Allen. They were laughing at Allen. And then all of a sudden they went in, and I actually set that offense 3 years prior. Because I did Bob Bill's podcast, but they started running the football and they invested in the offensive line and they dug themselves out a hole. Look at Mahomes. They're like, when he lost Super Bowl to Brady, is he any good? Those tackles went down. He got the hell beat out of him. Then he invested everything in the offensive line and ran himself to 2 more Super Bowls. So it's like, he's not Mahomes. He's not Allen. He's not Marino. He's a good quarterback in a good system.
Yes, he is.
Treat him like Brees. Look at Peyton. Peyton always ran the football. He always had a balanced attack. And so, to me, it starts at the trenches and is a negative or positive modifier by how they play. And when I look at the kid, I give him loads of context along with McDaniel, because the offensive line is tragic. They get pop runs to the outside. They can't run inside. They can't run on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. Can't run in the red zone. Everybody knows the menu, what it is: pocket post, flies, screens, outside run. That's it. And so they rush 4. They stop the run with 4, and then they play over zones. And they know where you're going. You can cover screens, outside runs, pocket posts, and deeps with the same defense. Because you're supposed to run inside with that and break them and bring the safety up and creep up the linebacker, so then you open things up. But no one ever does that because they're like, screw it. We can stop you. You're not going to do anything with us inside. You're not going to do it.
Yeah. And I think the reason why they don't worry about the inside is to be quite frankly, I just don't think we have a running back, a power back. We don't have a Derrick Henry, because Derrick Henry played in a terrible offensive line in Tennessee. And look what he did. If we had a big power back like that, I think that would not only benefit Tua, but the whole offense in general. And I'm hoping that Brooks is that guy. I mean, we saw some of him, breaking tackles and running aggressively and all that. So I'm hoping he's the guy that can that can help Tua in that respect, as far as, power running, if it's 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, or not 4th and 1, or, 4th and 1, 3rd and 2, like, remember, what was the guy that Polite, remember Polite that used to play with Miami?
Yeah.
He was almost a
Keith
guaranteed.
Byers, remember Keith Byers?
Keith Byers,
man.
he was almost
Keith
a guaranteed first down. He can get one yard, or Larry Zonka, 1 yard. You can get 1 yard. He could fall down and get 1 yard. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of thing that I think we do need in this offense, even with a bad line like we have right now. I think it would benefit. I mean, even with a bad line, a good power back can get you 1, 2, 3 yards.
The thing is, okay, so everybody in NFL is good. All these coordinators, they kind of know your tendencies. The goal of the offense is to maintain initiative. They know the call, they know the snap, they know where they're going. And so that initiative is critical, but 4-point tension is just as critical. If you threaten the line of scrimmage and you threaten the deep and you threaten the wides, there's 11 guys on the field. I think it's like you cover 25 by 50 box. It's like 1,400 feet, and each player's got to cover 140 feet. And so when you create tension to bring guys up, it opens things up. But if you have no tension in certain areas, they can stock areas. And with us, there's 3-point tension, the exteriors and the deep. And the reason, my personal belief is that if you look at yards before contact, it's always higher than yards after contact for the most part. So the running back generates the least amount of an offensive running play. It's the offensive line.
Right.
And, somebody was saying Wins can't drive block. I mean, a lot of these guys, you need, I really love the offensive line. When I was in college, I was a running back, and part of the reason I stuck as a walk-on is because my coach, offensive line coach, saw me sitting for the offensive line drills. He's like, "What the hell is with this?" So, I like this. It's always been a fascination with me because I understood, as a running back, what it means, and I really spent a lot of time studying these guys. Teron healthy is unbelievable, but he's not a drive blocker. He's a move blocker. He's a pass blocker. Wynn is 300 pounds, 6'2". He ain't driving anybody. Eichenberg can't drive anybody. Cotton can't drive anybody. Jackson can't drive anybody. The two guys we had, and I think there was a chance last year, when you look at the chemistry between Hunt and Connor, go back and look at that Patriots game. We weren't doing anything. And it was the last play when Mosher got the run for 60 and Connor and Hunt doubled, and then Hunt peeled to the second level and opened it up. Those guys were drive blockers, drive blocking center, drive blocking right guard, who worked well together. And those two were key. And when we lost them, it really did hurt us. But we don't have any. Brewer's not a drive blocker. He's a move blocker. And so for me, it comes down to the physicality. It's like chess. Those center 4 squares controls the board. The A gap, the B gap, that's where it starts. You create that first point tension and it opens everything up. We can't do that. Maybe we can this year. Maybe these guys step up. You know what I'm saying?
I hope so. I hope so. I hope so.
Hey, Steve, read the private message real quick.
Private message?
Yeah. You get in too, Curtis. Nothing against you. Just letting him know a reminder of my schedule.
Oh, okay. No problem, man. No problem. I got you. I was just getting ready to close it out, my friend.
No worries, brother.
No problem. Yeah, Curtis, man, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. A lot of good insights. I really enjoy your takes. I may not agree with some of them, but hey, that's what it's all about.
I don't even agree with
right?
some of my takes.
Yeah, there you go. That's interesting that you said that. But anyway, I really do appreciate you coming on. We'll have to have you on again. I really mean that. Yeah. And Rob, thank you again for being such a co-host there and being patient, listening to some of my rants. I appreciate that, brother. He always reels me in most of the time. He reels me in when I get
you do a great job, man. You don't got to worry about it.
But anyway, thanks. So we'll close the show with that, and I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Appreciate you all. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new. And again, share with your friends, your families, your neighbors. And thanks again, guys. Appreciate it. And remember, you ready, Rob?
Dolphins
Dolphins number one, baby.
Dolphins number one.